A surprising edition of Madden and Benz Unfiltered. We're surprised the Steelers won. I think most of you are surprised the Steelers won. But let's talk about how it happened. The path to victory itself isn't necessarily surprising because if the Steelers are going to do it, this was how they were going to have to do it. We're brought to you by Mike's Beer Bar, Mark Madden, myself, Tim Benz. With you, meet me at Mike's on the North Shore at the base of the Clemente Bridge across from PNC Park. Try one of their many available craft beers, 80 rotating taps. Get some food, including a steak on a stone, as we get set for the Steelers for Sunday night football against the LA Chargers. Penguins play tonight. Go there for hockey games. They've got their flight nights on Monday night for Monday Night Football as well. We'll talk about all that throughout the course of the next half hour. But, Mark, we have to start with the Steelers' victory against the Indianapolis Colts. I didn't see it coming. I know you didn't see it coming. But when we talked on Friday, we thought if the Colts were to play the Steelers and lose, it was going to have to be by their own making to a large degree. And the turnovers that came from Danny Dimes were a huge part of it, although give the Steelers credit for forcing them in the first place.
Yeah, I thought the 6 takeaways against Indy yesterday were more earned by the defense than the 5 takeaways against New England earlier this season. I thought New England just, gave the Steelers the ball yesterday against the Colts. I thought the Steelers more took it. Here's a weird stat, Tim. The Steelers are second in the NFL in takeaways in 16. They have 11 of those in 2 games.
Right.
And they barely won both games. Like yesterday, they got 6 takeaways and won by 7. I'm not sure exactly what that says, but it says something that makes me a little bit nervous and should make Steeler fans a little bit nervous too. That said, Aaron Rodgers, man of the match, very precise, converted takeaways into points. He's the guy who's the MVP for the team so far this year.
Well, Aaron Rodgers was critical of the offense and said they didn't finish off enough of those opportunities.
Yeah, but that's him trying to set the bar higher. They got 3 touchdowns and a field goal off turnovers.
Yeah, that's good enough as far as I'm concerned. The one that obviously sticks out is the muff punt. Because you're not allowed to advance it initially, and we can debate the merits of that rule, it's a rule. So I'm not going to get fired up about it, but I will say that the offense needs to be better in that circumstance. From there, though, the chances that were given to them, they were opportunistic, and it's good that they were because the bigger issue with the offense was creating its own momentum instead of having it handed to them by the defense.
I'm interested to know why you can't advance a muffed punt. I can't think of one good reason that prevents that. But when Rodgers talked about not getting enough points off turnovers, I thought he was specifically referring to not cashing in the muffed punt. If I have any complaints about the offense, it's that the running game was nil. Jalen Warren was invisible. And the Steelers got outgained by over 100 yards in a win. I mean, I want to take optimism away from this victory, and I do, but maybe not quite as much as I should, having beaten a 7-1 team, because, again, there's a lot of odd nuances to look at if you kind of drill down deep.
Yeah, there's a lot of pizza at midnight, empty calories with those yards and points from the Colts, though, in the fourth quarter. I mean, both those wide receivers had 115 yards, and I don't care about it because Taylor and Warren were the 2 that were negated. I'll take that 7 days a week and literally twice on Sunday in both halves.
What I really liked about the Steelers' defense, aside from the takeaways, aside from 5 sacks, they showed some new looks on defense. They dared to be a little bit different, which is something Mike Tomlin just doesn't like to do. But they looked to be a 4-3, a lot of 3 inside linebackers, which I thought really helped stuff Jonathan Taylor. So give Tomlin credit. The guy who doesn't like to change at all, under any circumstances, did so and to good effect.
Well, actually, I don't know if you saw 3 inside linebackers numerous times. I saw more of the 3 outside linebackers, too. Like you saw Herbig.
Well, yeah, both. He used a bunch of different looks. It was great.
Yeah, Herbig, Sawyer, and Highsmith were actually together in a sequence where Watt was out. Then Watt joined Herbig and Sawyer when Highsmith was out, and they did kind of give the look of almost a 4-3 with the way they clouded it. And the big thing for me, Mark, is they remembered to start throwing their hands up when they weren't getting home to the passer. That's something that they had forgotten to do or just kind of lost track of doing, weren't as proficient as doing. in the previous 2 weeks. This quick pass game stuff that we're all whining about for 2 weeks, it's not like that's new. That's been happening to the Steelers forever, getting beat by quick passing games, getting beat by chips and double teams on Watt. The difference is that they used to combat that by the defensive linemen throwing their hands up and batting balls down. Hayward was kind of the king of that for a while, but he got back to that, as did the rest of the team, and to very good effect in key situations, key plays, and actually some of them turned into turnovers too.
Well, Tim, I can speak for old men when I say it's tough to keep our hands up. You just get tired. But no, you're right on point with all of that. And Jack Sawyer is proving to be a very valuable commodity, the rookie from Ohio State, because he's kind of a tweener. He's an edge. He's a true outside backer. He's big enough to be on the inside. He offers you a lot of different things, which means you can use him to put forth a lot of different looks.
I do like the fact as well that they just allowed necessity to be the mother of simplicity, necessity to be the mother of invention through simple means. And that is Jalen Ramsey playing safety is probably what he should be doing right now. Ironically, when Ramsey was acquired, everybody got excited about it because now we got somebody to cover Chase and somebody to cover Jefferson. Well, that was miscast because the thing he does less effectively than anything else in his resume is just flat out run with guys and cover them. Everything else he does still pretty well. And I think that's more magnified when he plays safety. So he played safety. The new guy, Duggar, played safety because they had no one else with all the injuries. And then the corners, more Eccles in the slot is good. And at this point, whether you want to say it, admit it or not, but Pierre instead of Slay might be better.
Yeah, and Ramsey seemed to be on Tyler Warren a lot too, which worked. And he lit him up with a hit early, which I thought was a small but big moment. Yeah, I mean, they did what they had to do, and maybe they discovered something by accident, although I still think that they're going to overestimate Ramsey and try to make him do too much when everybody's healthy again.
How about some of the way the schedule broke out, Mark, yesterday? When you look at it, you see, not just yesterday, but throughout the course of the week with Baltimore winning on Thursday night. But I'm talking about like Seattle, for instance, making mincemeat offensively of Washington. Did we overrate the importance of that loss or the effect, the feeling of that loss because we didn't appreciate Seattle for what they've turned into? What do we make of, potentially Baltimore creeping up or now being kept at bay by this win? That might be the biggest aspect of this win, actually, is that they maintained the 2-game lead over Baltimore for at least another week as we try to figure out if the Ravens are really back or not.
Well, I think now they're very likely to have a lead in the division when they play Baltimore on December 7th, a day that will live in infamy. And, yeah, but, I mean, the Steelers can beat anybody, can lose to anybody. I have trouble assigning significance to wins or losses because it's more about them and being that kind of team. As far as the results around the league, well, there's a lot to talk about. Cincinnati scores 38 points at least in each of the last 2 weeks and loses both games. That's incredible. Like you said, Seattle killed Washington. And the big controversy there, of course, that Washington left Daniels in too long in a route, and he dislocated his elbow. You got Carolina beating Green Bay. You got Buffalo beating Kansas City in the regular season again, and they still got to beat them in the playoffs. But what if Kansas City doesn't make the playoffs? If the season ended today, they would be out of a playoff spot. And I predict they're not going to make it. They're just worn out.
What about Alt going out for Los Angeles? That's a huge loss for them. I think they're 4-1 with him. They're 1-2 without him. He is so important to protecting Herbert and in the run game as well. I looked at these 3 games, Mark, this chunk between the 2 Cincinnati games, and I said they're probably going to go 1-2. I didn't really know how they were going to get to 1-2. If they walk away from it that way, I'm not going to feel despondent about that because it's what I predicted. It's just how they get there. Losing to Cincinnati is still going to be a head scratcher, as much of a head scratcher as beating the Colts, to be honest with you. And then the Chargers, it's what exactly we thought it was going to be. It's the swing game of the bunch.
Yeah, if they beat LA, they're really back in the driving seat for winning the division, I think. I don't think it's going to take a lot to win that division. I think it might be 9-8. 10-7 wins it for sure. And if they're at 6-3 after beating the Chargers, they're half the way there, more than half, which means they probably won't win.
Yeah, right, exactly, because that's just the Steelers helped define the topsy-turvy nature of this league more than just about any other team. Because
and we bleat on about how great the defense was, but I do like that the citizens aren't overreacting to how good the defense was, because the defense is obviously capable of playing like that. It just doesn't happen often enough. It's like when TJ Watt got the strip sack, which is the play that turned the game and defined the game. If Watt doesn't make that play, the Steelers don't win. But my reaction was, to quote the fan in Slapshot, when Braden scores a goal, that's what you're paid to do, Braden. Now try winning a game for a change. And the Steelers did that, but it's only one strip sack. It's only one game.
That's short to the point of like our first comment that came in. I'm looking here, 40 minutes. No, more than an hour before we came on the air. This guy says the fix for the defense is simple. Play to your capabilities, play to match the paycheck, nice results. That's ostensibly what you were saying about Watt with that play. And I agree. And it's rare when you go against the best team in football that the biggest play of the game happens midway, take that back, early in the second quarter, where there's so much game left to be played, but it was going in the wrong direction. I think the phrase that Tomlin appropriately used was, we were running in sand before Watt made that play, and he's exactly right, because they had tanked on the friggin' muff punt. They had allowed a fake punt. They gave up a scoring drive. Nothing was going right, and it felt like that game could quickly get away, and then Watt completely flipped the momentum.
And I hesitate to say the Colts aren't for real after one loss when they're still 7-2, Tim. But I will say this. They had a 7-zip lead, and when Watt made that play, the Colts put their heads down just long enough where the Steelers got going.
And what Watt did certainly helped this, but Danny Dimes looked like the Giants' Daniel Jones. Not
that bad, but not as good as what Indiana Jones, a name I hate.
Well, look, the bigger picture for the Colts, if you're looking at it from their perspective, is this was a game that you win because of the way things were going. This was a game that you win based on the matchups. And if you have visions of either going to or even hosting Kansas City or Buffalo, you beat Pittsburgh in this circumstance, and they did not. And that's got to be a little bit of a wake-up reality check for who they are and where they are.
You know what I can really see happening, Tim? I can see the Steelers winning the division and then having to play wild card Buffalo or wild card Kansas City in the first game.
Yeah, unless Kansas City catches up to Denver, that's probably going to happen. I mean, the Steelers will go a long way to aiding themselves in that regard by beating the Chargers, not just for their own positioning, but also to knock the Chargers down so the Chiefs can pass them and maybe Denver so that they can win the division and the Steelers don't have to worry about them in that circumstance.
Boy, Tim, you and a lot of other people are assuming an awful lot about a Kansas City team that's played over an extra season of football during these playoff runs they've had. They're tired now, I'm telling you.
They're tired, but I mean, still they're throwing in the end zone with a chance to tie it against Buffalo yesterday. You know,
they didn't,
but I mean, like,
they've lost every time they've been in a one-score game this year. They've lost. They're 0-4 in one-score games. They tire at the end, and they can't quite get games done like that. When they have a lead, no problem. Any team can hold on to a big lead, but those one-score games, they can't see it through.
Yeah, but still, if you get into the playoff situation, who are you more likely to bet on, Reed and Mahomes or Harbaugh and Herbert and Bo Nix and the Broncos?
Depends where the game's at.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I still have faith in the Chargers being able to win on the road. Excuse me, the Chiefs to win on the road in a playoff game because of Mahomes.
Tim. If the Chiefs came to Acrisure for a playoff game, I would bet everything I own. What's the song? Give up my house, my heart, my home. I just would bet it all on the Chiefs.
Come on, you went to buy.
I forgot to bet on the Colts.
You got lucky then in that regard.
I was going to bet. I was going to bet like I said, 2 dimes on Danny Dimes. Maybe not that much, but I didn't bet at all. And seriously, I didn't chicken out. I just plumb forgot. Like literally, they kicked the ball off, and I'm like, crap.
You still could have gotten in live, and you still would have been bailed out. But look, I bet on the Colts. I bet on the over. Wait, did the over hit? Maybe the over. No, the over didn't end up hitting. And then I bet on the Colts in the fourth quarter. So I at least got that one right because the Steelers' defense is bad in the fourth quarter, and the Colts are playing catch up. So
I get a bad feeling betting after the game starts, so I don't do it.
Oh, you're like philosophically opposed to in-game gambling?
I'm not opposed to it. I mean, that's the lifeblood. The live bet is the lifeblood. That's where guys go overboard, I think. But no, I just don't do it.
What'd you think of the Penguins week that was, Mark?
I thought mostly good. People are discouraged by the loss at Winnipeg because they trailed 2-0 after 3 minutes. But, they were probably due for a clanger like that. They've been playing so well. Winnipeg's a good team. It's a tough place to play. So, no, I think they're going good. I think tonight at Toronto will tell a tale.
Yeah.
But overall, the only thing they got to avoid, if they can avoid like a 4 or 5 game losing streak, just if they can play 500-ish, even 400-ish, from now till Christmas, they'll be in the playoff race. And given that they're not going to apparently totally tank to try to get Gavin McKenna, I think they're in a pretty good spot.
Amplifying a point that you made on the podcast, because I think it's worth investigating. If that scenario should play itself out through until March, where they're 500-ish the rest of the way, they're in the playoff bracket at the trade deadline, and they do nothing. Like, they don't sacrifice any of their draft capital to acquire. You're okay with that? If they just stand pat and let the hand be dealt the way that it is?
Yeah, but I would still trade Raquel and Rust. They're not going to win a Stanley Cup, but you can't do that to Sid. You can't do that to the dressing room. You can't do that to the fans, because if they fooled themselves and fooled all of us that long, let the deception continue. Let it play out and see how they do, because it's a real bad Eastern Conference.
Well, the other thing about that part of the equation, Mark, at least now with Raquel out, let's say something else happens and they actually improve on their standing and they're in first place by themselves, or they stay with the Devils stride for stride. They play well without Raquel. Like, then there's an argument to be made that you can trade him and you're not hurting the team because you're getting production from elsewhere.
Yeah, and I think part of this is they're almost having a Capitals-esque run like, Washington did last year, feeding on the energy of Ovi chasing Gretzky. I don't know what the impetus is here. Maybe Pat Brisson saying that Sid deserves to be in the playoffs every year, and the dressing room said, maybe he's right. And he is right, but deserve and earning are two different things, and deserve don't matter. But Sid's playing great. He's certainly doing his part and then some. Got a goal at Winnipeg, 9 goals on the year. He's scoring Sid this year, which is what they need him to be. Not even more than all-around 200-foot make play Sid. They need him to be scoring Sid.
Is Toronto too dejected to even go to a hockey game after what happened in Game 7?
Tim, I saw Bachman-Turner overdrive last night. Screw the Jays, screw the Leafs, screw every hockey team in Canada. All Canada ever needed was Randy Bachman.
I watched all that game, Mark. Not all of it. I was driving for some of it, but I stopped at a motel on the way back to Pittsburgh before the football game yesterday. So I stayed over in Erie, and I watched the whole thing. And from about the 5th inning on, after listening to it to get to the motel, and I was captivated by it. If you just put the blinders on and watch good baseball, it was good baseball.
No, I loved it. I watched the last probably 7 innings. I tuned in about halfway through, and then, of course, it went extras. I'm glad nobody walked it off with the home run. I want Maz to be the only guy.
Oh, I was thinking that. That was going through my head a lot.
Back in 1960. But, no, I liked it. I wrote a column today for the Trib, though, about how people act like the Blue Jays bought a World Series. Well, of course they did.
The Blue Jays, the Dodgers.
Excuse me, the Dodgers. But the Blue Jays tried. They spent $255 million on payroll this year. And baseball isn't broken. That the usual idiots are saying baseball's broken. No, it's not broken. The World Series pitted the number 2 market in the country against the entire nation of Canada. Revenue through the roof, TV ratings through the roof, everything through the roof. Do you think, in the interest of being fair, in the interest of giving everybody a chance, that MLB would trade that the networks would trade that the sponsors would trade that for, let's say, Cleveland against Milwaukee? I think not. MLB is exactly as MLB wants to be and should want to be.
I thought during the broadcast, particularly during Game 7, they were making a real big deal about, Toronto trying to win it for the first time in 32 years, 3 decades this, 30 years that. I'm like, how about 45? That's not, I can certainly remember Joe Carter's home run more than I can Willie Stargell's in Baltimore.
Wait, how many years is it exactly? It's 46, correct?
For Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, boy, how bad is it when you haven't won for so long that doing the math is difficult? Okay, but yeah, I mean, but Pittsburgh. I mean, what's going to be weird is, and this is in my column too, when they have the big battle for the salary cap after the CBA expires in December of 2026, it'll be like Stalingrad dipped in Armageddon, but hopefully without a really bad Aerosmith song. And the rich owners want a cap because they know the salaries have gone nuts and they want cost certainty. The poor owners don't want a floor they have to spend to. So for the first time in the history of trying to get a cap in place, the rich will want it, the poor will not. I think that's tremendous.
Mark, real quick before we go to the comments, Jerome Bettis spent a lot of time before the game stumping for Marquise Pouncey as well as James Harrison and Hines Ward to get in the Hall of Fame. You think any of them make it?
No.
Yeah, I don't think any of them make it either.
I don't think any of them deserve to make it. Wait, I mean, Hines is just too far down the list statistically. And that stuff about he changed the game with his blocking, nobody cares. Marquise Pouncey is just a center. Nobody cares about a center. We have a tradition of centers here in Pittsburgh. Guess where else they have that tradition, Tim? No place else. And then James Harrison, right? I think he is the guy of those three that deserves it the most. I think his peak was incredible. He has the greatest play in World Series history.
Super Bowl.
But otherwise, you know, maybe the prime's too short. I don't know. But of the three, he deserves it the most.
Let's get some of those other comments that I talked about. Mark, this comes from Sports Sharp 412. Very good distinction. Yesterday's turnovers weren't gift wrap. About the time the $40 million man made a play. I guess you're talking about Watt there. We discussed that earlier. He says, albeit halfway through the season, but I digress. It was a huge play. And, you know, I do think that maybe even the New England game, they took a little bit too much guff for having the ball handed to them on numerous occasions. They stripped those balls, they punched at those balls, and they got them out. So I give them credit for that too. Against the Pats.
I disagree. I thought New England was butterfingered. I thought the Steelers made plays for those takeaways against the Colts.
Buff88 says, still want Tomlin gone, not being suckered into this with a big win. Then back to the same old thing again. Well, I think there's a distinction. It's not that hard to be drawn for a good win versus reason to stick with the same formula that's happened for the past 8 years, which is not a playoff victory and 12 of the last 14. We could talk about a win independently of what that means for Tomlin or Austin or anybody else we've been talking about for the past few weeks.
You know what's going to suck, though, Tim? If they win a playoff game, that will be treated like having won a Super Bowl, and the usual suspects will want Tomlin to coach until he dies.
Oh, it'll reset the clock entirely, for sure. Yeah.
So here's hoping they don't win one.
I mean, look, they won a playoff game in 2016, and it's lasted this long. I mean, the 2015 and 16 seasons. I still don't know if Tomlin would have been fired if he lost those games, honestly.
No, he's never getting fired. From the moment he got hired, he was never getting fired. I can't believe there are those out there who still don't understand that.
Richard says desperation led to a much-needed change on defense, even though they are in first place in the division. The season was teetering before yesterday's game. Yeah, I mean, if you look in the standings, you saw yourself once at 4-1, then sitting there at 4-4, just a game in front of the Ravens, it would have had a distinctly different tone for sure. Yes,
4-4 would have had a feeling of, oh man, you know, it's like back to square one with tougher games coming up.
This guy says Tomlin had to change. It was suggested that Art Rooney II read Tomlin the riot act this week, basically.
No, he didn't.
Intimating another loss.
Who suggested that?
I didn't see that. If that was seen somewhere, I'd like to see who wrote it.
Art Rooney II is scared to death of Mike Tomlin.
This one comes from John. It says, congrats to Pitt for winning 5 straight, but now the schedule gets real. Can Heinzel lead them to any success against Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, and Miami? They'll win at least one of those, I think. Maybe against Notre Dame to keep Notre Dame first, I think, to keep it going. But you know how Pitt is. As soon as they get a big win, it's usually they unplug their own momentum with the loss. Miami's limping here and there a little bit, but I don't know. I mean, it's a sort of late coming momentum for Pitt. Then again, like to this guy's point, the schedule is so backloaded. It feels like we're just kind of building up to this part of the season anyway.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't listening.
Because it was Pitt?
Yes.
Okay. I've got to see this team beat somebody like Buffalo before I can buy into Tomlin at all. I'm still standing on the edge of the Steelers era organization. I'm an old school guy from the 70s. Well, you don't have to go back to the 70s. You can go back to the 2005 team that was here. You can go back to the 2008 team that was here, the 2010 team that was here to know what a better team looks like and what big wins really look like.
You know what quote I found to be hilarious? You know, they had all the Super Bowl 40 dudes there, right? And by the way, don't underestimate that as a motivating factor, that those guys didn't want to look like dipsticks and get killed in front of them guys. Especially with them so present, and like some of the old defensive guys got involved in the pregame hype on the field, which I thought was a little carny, but hey, they won. But I thought when Ben said about there'll never be a team like the Super Bowl 40 team again, then he said it was a different time. It absolutely was not. Things are exactly the same now in terms of how you assemble a team. Why is it a different time? But that's just, coming up with something to say when there really isn't anything to say about the Steelers' prolonged run of playoff failure.
All right, let's get to Eric, who says about the Penguins, the musical goaltender rotation was cute at the beginning, but it's time to pick one and stick with them.
No, it's not. Shut up. It's fine the way it is. They're 8-3-2. Why would you complain about that?
Yeah,
there's no clear-cut number one. Neither is outplaying the other. If one was clearly outplaying the other, then you might be onto something. But as it is, you're just stupid.
Well, if it's one, then which one is so clearly better, I would say to him, and why isn't he being picked yet? Because I think it's like you, Mark. I mean, they're both actually a little bit better than what I thought they would be to this point.
I'll tell you which one is clearly better. Morrishoff, and he's in Wilkes.
This is Jonathan, who says, when are the Pirates stooges going to realize that a cap or no cap, the MLB doesn't give a rat's you-know-what if your buccos are competitive? Do you honestly think MLB would rather see the Pirates in the World Series as opposed to the Cubs, Cardinals, Phillies, Dodgers, or Giants? No, but Skeens would at least be an easily marketable selling point. But the team, no.
You know what's amazing, though? The guys who cover the team on the beat locally, right? They're just such marks. And they're not necessarily saying how good they're going to be, but they cover the team like it's the Dodgers without a trace of cynicism. Like, how can you cover this team straight? How can you not, laugh at them? How can you not expose them? But nobody does. And that helps the con. The local beat writing media for the Pirates helps perpetuate the con better than Nutting has a right to dream.
This guy says still a fraudulent win. That was just a typical Tomlin rigged win. Well, if it was rigged, then I think Danny Dimes needed to let other people in on the joke, or at least cut them in on the cut, because he was the one that seemed to rig it the other way all by himself.
Tim, I got to get this in there too, and I'm gonna stooge for Liverpool here. Did you hear the crowd when it was 7-0 and the Colts were driving at Acrisure? It went dead silent. Dead silent. You heard some boos. Liverpool, 4-game losing streak, comes home. The crowd was bat crap crazy to get the team over the line. And it was a bad win, but a win nonetheless. Well, not a great win. And that's the difference. That's the romance of football over there as opposed to the crap of football right here.
What was BTO like last night?
Well, it's Randy Bachman with a bunch of guys. Okay, like Fred Turner's not there. It's still really good. I think he got the name. He got the name Bachman Turner Overdrive, which he didn't have for a bit. And
the Guess Who you said too, right?
Yeah, him and Burton Cummings owned the Guess Who. Now Fred Turner is not available, the bass player. He's a little more infirm. So, but it's Bachman, his son Tal Bachman, who had a big hit back when with "She's So High Above Me." Remember that song?
No.
Okay, me neither. And
I was kind of hoping you'd sing it.
The drummer is Tal Bachman's wife, who was the girl in that video, which I find hilarious. And then two other guys. You may recall in the original incarnation of BTO, Randy Bachman and Fred Turner were two big fatzos. So they got a big, chunky kind of bass player with that booming voice to sing the Fred Turner songs. So it was really good. And they played like 5 Guess Who hits as well. So really, and I'll tell you what, Tim, sold out Palace Theater. Sold out. And that's because if you're my age, in 7th grade, That was the first time I rode the bus to school, Tim, in 7th grade, to Millville Junior High. Before that, I walked to Reserve Township Elementary School. And that year, I think it was Not Fragile. Whatever album had You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet and Taking Care of Business on it, and that 8-track was in the bus's player the entire year.
So your bus driver was like Otto from The Simpsons then.
So, yeah, exactly. So seeing BTO, no, he wasn't that smart. But to see BTO, I remember his name, Kimba. His name was Kimba, like the white line in the cartoon. And we had like an obscene song we sang about him to the tune of Smoke on the Water. But yeah, the memories that something like that brings back, you can't put a price on those.
Well, you're talking about the woman who was the drummer, was the wife of the lead singer, or the guitar player. Sorry, but it was like in my mind now. I'm trying to create or imagine like Tawny Katane playing drums for Whitesnake.
She still looks good.
Jessica Hahn playing drums for Sam Kinison or something like that.
And they do that song, She's So High. That's one of the songs in the set. So it was really good. And Randy Bachman's a great storyteller. Like he's older and he sits on a stool while he performs, but boy, he's still a slick guitar player. He hits all the right notes. So it was good.
All right, Mark is on today at 2:00. Be listening for him all the way up until 6. Penguin game after that against the Leafs. I'll be on Sportsnet tonight, ESPN Plus tonight for the Duquesne opener against Niagara, so you can watch that. And you can also get the Madden Monday podcast, which is posted at Trib Live on the Fans First Network stream. Go to the Breakfast with Benz page, and you can listen to our podcast from this morning there. Both are brought to you by Mike's Beer Bar on the North Shore. Go there tonight for the Pens. Go there tonight for the Monday Night Football. It's flight night. Who will take flight at Mike's? You. Meet me at Mike's.